I sold Naomi Calloway her ticket out of Larkspur Crossing on a Tuesday, and I bought it back from her on a Thursday. And somewhere in between, she got herself a husband she hadn't wanted 2 days before. I'd run the stage line counter at Larkspur Crossing 11 years, and never sold a ticket that meant more to anyone than that one meant to Naomi. She'd been saving for it since she was 16. Pennies from mending shirts, dimes from the dry goods counter where old Pruitt paid her half what he paid the boy who couldn't make change without his fingers. 4 years of it, folded tight in a tobacco tin behind a loose board in her room. $22.40. The fare to Cheyenne, where her aunt kept a dress shop, and had written, twice, that there was a place for Naomi behind the counter whenever she was ready. She was ready. She'd been ready since she was 16. Then Asa Tate came through my door that Tuesday morning, looking like a man who hadn't slept since his brother's funeral, which, as it happened, he hadn't, not in 6 weeks. Silas, he set his hat on the counter like it weighed something. I need to ask you a strange question, and I need you not to laugh. I told him I'd do my best. Judge Hanley's circuit comes through in 3 weeks. He's the one signs off on Eli staying with me. Word's already gone round that a bachelor ranching alone with a 7-year-old won't sit right with him. I need a wife, Silas. Not for show, for real, for Eli. I can't lose that boy, too. I'd known Asa Tate 20 years. I'd never heard him ask for anything. Is there anyone, a widow, somebody steady, who might consider an arrangement, he said. Practical. I'd treat her right. I just need somebody who won't run the second it gets hard. Eli's already had enough people leave him. I want to be clear, because I've heard this told wrong. I didn't think of Naomi, because nobody wanted her. I thought of her because she was the steadiest person in Larkspur Crossing. And because 20 minutes earlier she'd bought a ticket to leave us all behind, and something in how she'd looked at it told me leaving wasn't the same as wanting to. I told Asa there might be someone, and to come back at 5. Naomi took it better than I expected and worse than I hoped, both at once. I don't know him, she said. I know he's quiet. I know his brother died. Daniel went off the bridge at Cold Spring in high water, end of April. Ace's had the boy since. I turned the tin she'd absently set on my counter. Lee hasn't said 3 words to a grown person since. Not the preacher, not the doctor, not his own uncle most days. And Mr. Tate thinks marrying a stranger fixes that. I don't think he's thought past Thursday, I admitted. But I've known Asa his whole life, and I'll tell you this. He's not asking for himself. I don't believe that man's asked for a thing for himself since he was 12 years old. She looked at the ticket lying between us. Green paper, her name in my own hand that morning, and then out the window, toward the road north, toward a ranch and a boy she'd never seen. Tell him I'll meet the boy first, she said, before I decide anything. She met Eli the next afternoon. I wasn't there, but I heard it from Asa's foreman, Tully, who told it for years afterward, like scripture. The boy was sitting on the porch steps when they rode in, whittling a stick with a knife too big for his hands, and he didn't look up when Asa called his name. Naomi didn't try to make him. She just walked over, sat down on the step a respectful distance off, pulled a folding knife of her own from her apron, and a stick from the woodpile, and started whittling too, said nothing. Worked at it a good hour, while Asa stood on the porch not knowing what to do with his hands. When the supper bell rang, Eli held up his stick, a crooked little horse, more lump than animal, and showed it to her. Not to Asa, to her. That's a fine horse, Naomi said. The first thing either of them had heard her say to the boy. He set it down on the step between them, like an offering, and went into supper without a word. She told Asa yes on the ride back. I only know that on Thursday morning, Naomi walked into my depot, set her tin on the counter, and asked for her $22.40 back. You're certain, I said. It wasn't really a question. Cheyenne isn't going anywhere, Silas. A boy who hasn't spoken in 6 weeks might. That afternoon she married Asa Tate in the parsonage front room, with me, Tully, and the preacher's wife, the whole wedding party. Not a flower in the place. Asa said his vows like a man reading a contract he meant to honor to the letter. Naomi said hers steady and plain, looking him in the eye the whole time, like she was making sure he heard every word. It wasn't a wedding for love, and everyone in that room knew it, but I've stood up for plenty of weddings that started with love and didn't have half the honesty that one did. The thaw, when it came slow and sideways, the way most real things do. It started with the shirts. Daniel Tate had left a trunk of clothes nobody'd had the heart to deal with, and it sat in the spare room until Naomi found it, 3 weeks in, looking for blankets. She didn't ask Asa what to do with it. She just sat up by the window with her sewing basket and started cutting the shirts into squares. Eli found her at it the second afternoon, and for the first time since she'd arrived, he came and stood close enough to watch. "Those were paws," he said. 4 words. "Tully," said Asa, passing the doorway, stopped dead in the hall like he'd taken a shot to the chest. "They were," Naomi said, not looking up from her needle. "I thought if it's all right with you, we might make something out of them. Something to keep a person warm at night. So your pa could still be looking after you, in his way." Eli sat down on the floor beside her chair and stayed the rest of the afternoon, and the next, handing her pieces. This one, then this one, like he was helping decide which parts of his father went where. It took 11 days to finish the quilt. Blue check and gray flannel, with 1 square of Daniel's good Sunday shirt set right in the center. Naomi laid it over Eli's bed without ceremony, and that night, the first time in 6 weeks, Asa told me the boy slept clean through till morning. Asa came around slower, the way hard men do. He watched, that first month, watched her feed the chickens unasked, teach Eli his letters with a slate and chalk, mend Asa's own coat without comment, the elbow he'd meant to fix since February. "You don't have to do all that," he told her once. Tully overheard it from the barn. "I know, I want to." "Why?" She thought about it like the question deserved the truth. "Because nobody ever did it for me, and I always thought somebody should." Asa didn't answer, but he fixed the loose porch step the next morning. The one nobody'd had the heart to fix, because Daniel had always meant to get to it. The judge wasn't due for 2 more weeks when the storm came through, off-season and hard, the kind that drops the temperature 30 degrees in an hour and turns Cold Spring Creek into something with teeth. Eli went missing in the first hour of it. Half the men in Larkspur Crossing turned out once word reached town, including me, and in 20 years I never saw Asa Tate move the way he moved that night. He didn't wait for a lantern, didn't wait for a horse. He went out into that storm bareheaded and on foot because his gut said the barn was the wrong direction. He found the boy at Daniel's grave, soaked through, shaking too hard to cry, his father's old pocket knife clutched in both hands. "I wanted to tell him things are better now," Eli said as Asa wrapped him in his own coat and carried him down off the hill at a near run. "I didn't want him to think I forgot him, just because things are better." Asa didn't speak for a long moment. Tully, catching up with a horse and blanket, said his face, in the lantern light, looked like something cracked open that had stayed sealed for years. "He knows, Eli," Asa finally said, his voice rough as gravel. "He's glad of it. That's not forgetting. That's the whole reason a man does anything, so the people he loves end up better off than he left them. Your pa got that. I promise you he got that." They got Eli home and warm, and Naomi sat up with him most of the night. Around 2 in the morning, Asa came and sat with her in the kitchen, the two of them not talking, the way people do when a bad thing nearly happened and didn't. "I should have told him sooner as it was all right to feel what he feels," Asa said eventually. "I never knew how to say any of it out loud. Daniel asked me for help with this place 2 years before he died, and I was too proud and too busy, and then he was gone. And I've spent every day since trying to make that right by being everything to that boy. And I never saw I was leaving the same hole his pa left, just shaped different. You're not leaving any hole now. That's because of you. It's because of both of us." She said it the way she said most things, like a fact. "He didn't come back to you tonight because I sewed him a quilt, Asa. He came back because you went out into a storm bareheaded the second you knew he was gone. And some part of him needed to see that, even if he never says so." Asa looked at her then, really looked, Tully said, like he was seeing something he'd been standing too close to notice. Judge Hanley came through 2 weeks later, and it was the shortest hearing of his whole circuit. He sat in the Tate front room, drank coffee Naomi had made, and watched Eli show him the quilt and explain exactly which square had come from which shirt and why. The judge signed before he'd finished his second cup. "Fine home, Mr. Tate," he said, on his way out. "Fine wife. You're a fortunate man." Asa walked him to his buggy and didn't argue. That afternoon, Asa hitched the wagon and said he had an errand at the depot and would Naomi ride along. She didn't think much of it until he walked into my office, set a small leather pouch on the counter, and asked me to write a ticket to Cheyenne. $22.40, Asa said, plus what it'd cost to send her things on after, whenever she's settled. Figured that was fair. "Asa, let me finish." He didn't look at her, just at his own hands flat on my counter. "You gave that up for Eli, for me. And I let you because I needed you to, and that was a selfish thing, even if it was right for him. The judge has signed now. Eli's safe. Nothing's stopping you from going to your aunt's now. I won't pretend I don't want you to stay. I do, more than I know how to say, but I won't be the reason you never got to Cheyenne. He looked up. So, there's your ticket if you want it. No hard feelings, whatever you choose. I mean that. I've sold a great many tickets and watched plenty of folks decide whether to use them. I never watched anyone look at one the way Naomi looked at that green paper. Asa, she said after a while, do you remember what I told Silas? The day I gave this back. That Cheyenne wasn't going anywhere. I remember. I meant it. It'll keep. She didn't pick the ticket up. But I already spent my dream, Asas. I spent it on a boy who needed somebody to whittle on a step until he trusted her, and on a man too stubborn to ask for help, until the asking nearly broke him in half. And I'd spend it the same way again, every time, because what I got back is worth more than any dress shop in Cheyenne. She met his eyes. Unless you're asking me to go. Are you asking me to go? No, Asa said, and for the first time in 11 years I'd known him, the man's voice broke clean in two. God, no, I'm asking you to stay. For real this time. Not for the judge. For me. Then that's settled, Naomi said, and slid the ticket back across the counter to me, like something borrowed returned. Silas can sell it to somebody who needs it more. I did. Eventually. To a young fellow heading out to try his luck on the railroad, near a year later. But I kept that green paper in my drawer a good while first. A ticket bought and given back twice, for reasons that good, seemed to deserve a rest before it went to anyone else. These days, ride out past Larkspur Crossing toward Cold Spring Creek, and you'll pass the Tate place. Bigger now, a second house going up for when Eli's grown, and a porch step that's never come loose again. You'll likely see a near-grown boy working a horse far finer than the whittled one he made that first week, though he's kept the little wooden one, too, on a shelf by his bed. And if you stop at the dry goods store, you'll find a back corner counter with bolts of good cloth and a hand-lettered sign, Mrs. Tate, dressmaking, by appointment, because old Pruitt finally retired, and Naomi bought his corner of the store outright, with money that started, near as I can figure, as $22.40 that never made it to Cheyenne, and never needed to. She built her shop here instead, just a smaller one than she'd planned, and from where I sit most days, watching the road, I'd call that a fair trade, both ways round.